We've been working for a number of years now on a program to develop a human papillomavirus, or HPV assay. HPV is an endemic, a common infection. Most women will get HPV infections at some point in their lives. The beauty and the beast of this disease is that most of those infections will actually resolve without further intervention. As much as 80% or more of infections will never result in a clinically relevant disease. But in the remainder, you move and can move relatively rapidly to the development of cervical cancer. So HPV testing and the ability to identify those patients who are actually at risk of developing cervical cancer or may actually have the disease is critically important. In order to get this product cleared in the United States, we will actually conduct and are conducting a clinical trial of over 10,000 women. These 10,000 women will be enrolled for at least a minimum of 1.5 to 2 years of follow-up, and there are a couple of arms of the study that will actually have a 3-year post-marketing follow-up in order to meet the FDA's standards. These are very different than those that applied 5 or 10 years ago as they evaluated other products. The challenge for us is that this looks like a pharma trial. This does not look like a clinical diagnostic trial. So we're actually spending tens of millions of dollars on this trial and multiple years in its effort. And I think the interesting public policy question is, do you really want to spend $20 million plus on the clearance of a diagnostic product? Does that make sense, and what are the downstream consequences of that kind of investment for the long-term healthcare cost? It raises some curious questions. And the second area that's shifted underneath us, and I think many people in this room have experienced it, has to do with the ultimate environment that we're operating in Washington now, and how, in fact, these healthcare reform measures that are being discussed and debated will be funded. And it's pretty simple. What we're looking at is, if the return on your investments is reduced, then obviously you need to rethink how you make those investments and where you make those investments. And we view actually the excise tax proposals being discussed for device and diagnostic companies as a very significant threat to innovation. It may cause us to rethink programs of the size and scope that we're undertaking with an HPV development program, but I think it has a more immediate impact, which it destabilizes the environment that we're operating in. To give you a feeling from our perspective, the various reform measures and the excise tax range that's being discussed is now between $2 and $4 billion a year for the industry. For GenProbe, that would translate into something like either $5 or $10 million a year direct excise tax, which obviously hits our bottom line. At GenProbe, that tax, even at the low end of the range, so in that $2 billion a year impact, will completely wipe out the benefit of the federal income tax R&D tax credit that GenProbe receives by our investment here in the United States. We spend over $100 million a year, greater than 20% of our revenue, on research and development, the vast majority of that being done here in the United States. And as you look at it from that perspective, you realize that the R&D tax credit has been a cornerstone of industrial policy since 1981, basically. Now, you can be forgiven for not really realizing that it's been there for that long, because every year Congress debates and reauthorizes this tax credit, but it is designed to have people have their jobs here in the United States, to invest in research and development, and to maintain that vital capacity. So the notion of an excise tax that literally appeared almost out of whole cloth within the last 2.5 months, that would completely eliminate the benefit of that R&D tax credit, is quite concerning to us. And I think when you have major shifts like that, whether they're shifts in the regulatory environment, whether they are shifts in the tax environment and the taxes that you'll be subjected to as an innovative company, you re-examine your strategies, you redeploy your investment dollars, and you're going to make decisions differently than you would in the environment that immediately preceded this. And I think that's my key point today, that there are real practical consequences of these broad policy concerns, and I think it's very important that Congress consider carefully, and that we debate carefully, both the intended and unintended consequences of these types of reform measures.